What's up, the squad? Back with another video. I seen the titles going down. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button for me, please. I definitely apologize. I was supposed to get out this video and do this video actually, earlier. Have some family time. Merry Christmas to all, and I pray, that everybody had an amazing, holiday, amazing Christmas. Says here, Republicans gearing up to force House vote to expel Ilhan Omar for Congress. Expel and deport. People are not only wanting, but also, calling for. And I know people are truly, 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 one and the same. You got here this post, on True Social. President Trump just called for Ilhan Omar to be thrown out of the U.S. Now. In Christmas True Social post, literally says here, throw her out of the U.S. now. And like I said, people are truly, truly, truly wanting. They're truly wanting this, and I don't blame them. I feel like we all feel the same. Definitely feel like we all want the same, when it comes down to it. And it's multiple things, it's just not one thing. Even if it was, Friday, I mean, you still would, have that same like she needs to go. But it's so many things, when it comes, to the fries that's happening, when it comes to, the whole thing with Mary and her brother, a lot of things. Says the estimated total amount of fried by Somalis occupying Minnesota is up to $6 billion, with the lion's share occurring in Ilhan Omar's district. Let's check it out right here.
The last I heard of the total fraud amount, and they say this is just the tip of the iceberg, it's about $6 billion. And when you consider the fact that this money generated in Ilhan Omar's congressional district, my congressional district, and it went to so many people that she's associated with. And the FBI has already come out and said that Minneapolis is a hub for terrorist recruitment. So it's highly unlikely that no money made it overseas. I'm convinced that there's a lot of money there. And that's why the federal government right now is going to investigate it so we can find out who's responsible, who had the money, and how it was filtered.
Exactly. One thing about it, a lot of people, are, wanting to know. You look at just even Ilhan Omar's net worth, over 30 million. You seeing so many things, happening in Minnesota. Not just Ilhan Omar either. Not just Ilhan Omar. This Anna Paulina Luna weighs in on Somali fraud in Minnesota, calling for criminal investigations. Let's check it out.
Well, there definitely needs to be criminal investigations looking into this, especially I think at the federal level. But, here's also another angle in that we know that this is a huge problem. It was interesting because I know just in the last, week or so, Walt managed to actually set up a fraud investigative committee, but he's about 7 years too late. I think ultimately what needs to happen is, these members of Congress apply for earmarks, specifically on legislation. And I think that needs to freeze. I obviously think that the DOJ needs to get involved, but it's really disheartening because you actually do see, I can tell you, people across the country are saying, they might not be getting their benefits, whatever it might be. You have veterans that are homeless right now.
Exactly.
And whenever that fraud takes place, you're literally taking away from the people that need it the most, the people that have served our country and Americans that have paid into the system.
And I think I've been saying that truly for a long time. I've been saying that, since day one, what a lot of this, honestly, I've been saying it really like now thinking about it. I've been saying it, since day one. If y'all watch my older videos, and if y'all even go back, and y'all look at the things that happened in New York, and seeing all, it was a lot of illegal aliens, down in New York and in the hotels and, stuff like that. And I always kept it, my brother, he served, and just seeing, and obviously, he's doing pretty well for himself. And now, but I seen him struggle, and struggle with benefits and stuff like that, and it definitely does, it definitely sucks, seeing, a loved one go through something like that. As I mentioned, he, of course, he had, somewhere to stay, during those times and, stuff like that. You don't want, give out too much information, but there's a lot of individuals that don't have that luxury, when it comes to family members or friends or, and I know it's sad to say, but that homeless, whether if it's on the street or if it's going, hotel to motel to, or a car, So one thing about it is that it does get, pretty, it's pretty sad, when it comes down to it. It's definitely pretty sad. And in those videos, I talked about how, you have people that serve, this for this country, and it's hard for them to get benefits, but you have these individuals, and I've learned, you have these individuals in Minnesota, and these individuals, like, I'm being so serious, these individuals get $7,000, $7,000, y'all, and it's definitely insane to me. It's definitely insane. You got it right here. It says ICE agents have started raiding Somali restaurants in Minnesota, and, the left isn't happy at all. One thing about this that I actually love, and I'm glad that they're cracking down on this, is because a lot of this has a lot to do, within these restaurants, the fraud that's happening, the things that's happening, when it comes down to it. You're having so many issues and so many problems, when it comes down to these individuals. Like I said, they get that $7,000. And like I said, they open up businesses, with this money, and they're getting food stamps, they're getting assistance, with housing, and it's pretty crazy. Check it out. So I truly feel as if it is definitely important, like I said, for them, to do this. Just this video right here, grocery store in St. Paul, Minnesota, says it's experienced a 75% drop in customers since ICE started doing its immigration crackdown on December 1st. This Buy More Mercado is now delivering groceries to illegals and others who are afraid to go into the store. Vanessa Machacho, I'm pretty sure that's how you said it there, says she's doing this because her partner was deported. Her partner should have self-deported and should have gone with, and she should have gone with if she cared. And I truly, I agree. And if this business can't stay in business without illegals, then it shouldn't be a business. Keep up the mass deportations, ICE. You're setting society back in order, and you're making America proud. One thing about it is that it's more so of setting, that example. Check this story out, y'all.
In this back room at Buy More Mercado in St. Paul.
This is what we have been including in the other groceries.
Vanessa Muchaka and her team are busy taking grocery orders and bagging them up for delivery.
We've seen a big decline in our sales.
She started doing this weeks ago when customers stopped showing up over concerns they'd run into ICE agents even if they're here legally. The store put this sign on the front door to ease anxiety, but it hasn't really helped.
There's people that are just scared just to be detained for whatever reason.
That's why the store now takes orders over the phone and online. After that, a runner does the shopping, then rings it all up, and volunteers drop everything off at the customer's door. And if they can't pay, it's all free thanks to the nearly $8,000 raised on GoFundMe.
Every Christmas time, it was very busy. Now it's very empty.
Owner Ramiro Hernandez says his store is usually more crowded this time of year, but fear, he says, drove customers away.
I'm only here more than 40 years, and I haven't heard anything like that is happening now. It made me feel very sad.
Can you help me put the chicken over there on the table?
As for why this is so important to Vanessa.
Because I've been through it. I had my partner taken away when it was the 2014. So I was single with 4 kids. I was not expecting that at all.
But there's
I truly feel like it's one of those things, like that's obviously something that you need to think about when it comes down to it. And I don't want to make that sound mean, but bringing kids into this situation, that brings me back to what I was talking about within New York and them actually delivering. I've heard as far as like delivering kids, when it comes down to individuals in these hotels, literally. And it's pretty crazy, of doing that. And then you go, and I don't want this to sound bad, and I don't know her, in her position, but a lot of these individuals, they use that, and they use that more so as, they cover that excuse, oh, I have this amount of kids, or I had this amount of kids, and they're doing that, and they're putting them in that position. And it's definitely sad, that brings me back to like even thinking about it, and it comes within, the foster care system. It's a lot of things that they do. And they put in these, in these spots, they put these children in these spots, and it's definitely sad. I'm telling y'all, it's definitely sad. One thing about it is that, you know, when it comes down to it, and I went, you know, down into, you know, a lot of, you know, these comments, and you just follow a delivery driver and ICE make a day of it, you know, ICE should follow them. You got people literally saying, you know, to follow them, you know, to see, you know, where they're going. You know, they're making deliveries, and soon, you know, I know for a fact they'll catch up. You got more in Minnesota police not speaking English, and literally saying, we are Somalia first. Check it out right here. And again, they're not speaking English, so I'm going to try my best, you know, to do what I can, you know, as best as I can when it comes down to it, y'all. I'm gonna try my best, y'all. I'm gonna try my best. So the Somalian police officers, we work for you, Somalians. Day and night, we stand for you and serve you. As you know, we came to this country, and I'll take this. I'm sure y'all want to listen to this. Came to country as refugees. There were no Somalian police officers. So now that we have been hired, it means we are working for our own people, Somalians. We understand the culture, we understand the language, we understand the way of life. That's why we are different from foreigners or white officers. We help bridge that gap. So thank you again. And know this, every Somalian police officer, whether you are in the homeland or abroad, works for you, Somalians, as you know. When you are asleep at night, when you are resting, we are the ones protecting you. So as y'all see, this is more so of them obviously, you know, caring about themselves and not caring about, you know, Minnesota, you know, obviously as a whole, or the United States. They don't care about that. You know, they care for their people, and that's it and that's all. I mean, we clearly see that. Brings me to this. And I wanted to show y'all this video because one thing about it, I can't wait. I truly can't wait. And I don't want to be negative, you know, when it comes, you know, down to a lot of things, but I truly cannot wait to things get cracked down, you know, when it comes down to Tim Walz. This is Hope Walz, his daughter. Pop back on social media briefly, you know, for Christmas to remind everyone how much she loves illegals. She said that, you know, she's sending love to violent criminal illegals. You know, and of course, Hope completely ignores the American victims of illegals. Check it out.
Today, I am holding all of our neighbors that ICE has been terrorizing near and dear to my heart, and sending them love and light, as well as all of our unhoused folks and just anybody that may be struggling right now. I'm holding very close to me, and I hope that you can all do so as well. This past year has been a tough one for all of us, but I'm so proud of the work that I have done in this awesome community and everything that you guys do every day. And yeah, happy holidays. Happy holidays. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday with those you care about. And yeah.
Let me tell y'all something. One thing about, you know, I mean, keep on. It's one of those things, you know. We've seen it, you know, to a lot of individuals. We've seen it happen to Jasmine Crockett, and see where that led her. You know, and yes, you know, people would comment and say, you know, oh, well, she's running for Senate, and she's doing this, she's doing. Let me tell y'all something. Let's see how that goes. Truly see how that goes. Keep on, because one thing about it, this Hope Walz, she'll slip up. She'll say something. She's been saying stuff. She'll slip up and she'll say something. Definitely. Brings me to this. Says Minnesota mayor just exposed Tim Walz for $9 billion fraud and Somali theft. Not only just this Minnesota mayor, there are a lot of, you know, Minnesota mayors that are pretty, you know, I would definitely say from the things I've been seeing, pretty mad. You know, pretty mad. And not okay, you know, what's going on, you know, with Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, Keith Ellison, and more. Check it out.
I mean, Minnesotans have been fleeced to the tune of $9 billion. This is done from fraud right out of the Minnesota Capitol in St. Paul, as well as the policies that are being championed and brought across the finish line by the legislature. Both the legislature and the governor are at fault for the fraud and the constant policies that are taxing Minnesotans.
You know, let's put up Minnesota's rank among key growth indicators. Very anemic and devastating growth numbers actually across the state that have happened under this governor. But Mayor Zupancic, let me ask you about something that Mike Emanuel reported at the end there, this question about whether or not the governor looked the other way on potentially $9 billion of fraud because he didn't want to point out that the majority of those who were accused and then convicted in these cases were from the Somali community. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't understand what difference that makes to anyone else. How would anyone else be approached or confronted if they stole money from someone?
Exactly. I'm telling y'all. One thing about it, you have, these individuals that constantly, just act like, they, I ain't even gonna say act, just doing it, and not caring. They're caring about themselves. And I'll tell anybody this. I've been telling people this as I'm putting out these videos, that they're truly caring about themselves when it comes down to it. They have money in their pockets, and obviously Tim Walz, and, people will say, oh, he's running the show. Oh, you got Ilhan Omar. Definitely got Ilhan Omar. And all the Somalians running right behind her. But one thing about it is that, you have President Trump. You got, the Trump administration that's definitely going to make it happen and do what they can, as far as getting them out of there. Definitely. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely appreciate y'all. Much love, everybody. Catch y'all next one.